So the Maricopa County audit is not going great for Katie Hobbs. Katie Hobbs is the Democrat Secretary of State of Arizona, and she is out making various threats to different counties and to taxpayers. And as a response, the Republicans are going ahead and removing her authorities and powers as it relates to elections. Things are, I guess, heating up in this Arizona audit, which has had all sorts of twists and turns. I have not covered it extensively. For lots of coverage on it, you can check out Out of the Darkness or Doug TeNapel on YouTube, a couple of friends of mine, and their channels will be linked down below. But in the meanwhile, let's take a look at what's going on. I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube and on Odyssey. So wherever you're watching, click that like button, click subscribe, and make sure you go ahead and have your notifications turned on so you don't miss any of these videos. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on in Arizona. We've got Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs saying that Maricopa County won't have to pay for voting machines. But the headline here is that Katie Hobbs is suggesting that all of the voting machines that have been analyzed by the auditors need to be removed because apparently once the auditors looked at them, they are now insecure, according to her. Or unsecured, I should say. Insecure. I don't think the voting machines have, are self-image issues. They're unsecured now, and they cannot be used for the next election, which I think a lot of people would cynically say they were already that way. And so I agree. I agree with Katie. We should go ahead and get rid of all of the machines from 2020 in Maricopa and probably in a lot of other counties as well. That's my personal opinion. I'm not so sure that these machines have been doing us the types of favors that they're supposed to be doing it. And I think a lot of people might agree with that the machines should probably go. As we go through the article, it says people were concerned that Maricopa County was going to have to bankroll all of the machines that are being looked at here. That's not actually the case at all. Maricopa County gets to decide whether or not they want to get rid of the machines. But in the event they do, the Senate, when they decided to do the audit, they indemnified the county against the loss in this, according to Hobbs. And she says, at the end of the day, it's the Arizona taxpayers. So the state will bear the cost of the machines, but the individual county, Maricopa County, will not bear the cost. So it's going to be out there. In my opinion, a small price to pay for trying to find out if there is integrity in the elections. I think the voting machines, getting rid of them is not the worst thing in the world here. This is not the bad outcome that it could be. In fact, I think with the level of dissatisfaction alone with how the election was conducted in many counties across the country, I think getting rid of the voting machines is probably something that a lot of counties are looking at already. This is not a casualty of the audit. This is a casualty of the election and of certain people's desire to have control over what was said about the election and the resulting backlash from that control that occurred. People are tired of being manipulated and lied to by politicians, by voting machine companies, by the media. And because of that, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at getting rid of these machines and finding alternatives, finding different companies that they may have more trust with, or going back to good old-fashioned hand counting and doing it that way. Not really sure what the plan is, but I know that these machines hold a special place in many people's garbage cans. So I'm not too concerned about losing it. But she, of course, is making this a big deal. And what she's been doing is kind of threatening the taxpayers of Arizona. This is her partisan sort of approach to this, is to say, well, you're going to have to pay for it. Look at what the Republicans are doing, and you're going to have to pay for it. As if a Democrat in any state anywhere has any grounds like telling people, oh, you're going to have to pay for this government program. Like that's the whole policy of the Democrat Party, is you need to pay for everything I want to do already. But now that there's an audit, to ensure that one of the most important processes that our country goes through every couple years is actually secure. Like now they're like, well, you're going to have to pay for that security. It's like, well, this is what the government's supposed to do. This is one of the things they're supposed to pay for. I'm sure there's a long list of things ahead of Arizona voters' concerns that they're paying for on their taxes before voting machines to make sure that the election actually happened the way it was supposed to. But, you know, these are partisan times. This is partisan politics, and it's being injected into everything. But as a result of this person, Katie Hobbs, as a result of her conduct during all of the election and the post-election stuff, we have the House and the Senate of Arizona just stripping her of power. And it's her of power. Make no mistake. They strip the office of power, but there's some funny stuff that happens as we go through this. So let's take a look. Political score settling is not supposed to be part of the budgeting process. Yes, it is. Who writes these articles? Mark Phillips, I guess. But yes, it is. Of course, political score settling is part of the budget process. It's part of the budget process in every state, every time they do a budget. And at the federal level, political score settling is exactly what happens in the budget process. That's where a branch of government gets to flex its power. In this case, the legislature over the executive. But like, this is not a weird thing at all. And it happens in every budget. There's partisanship in all budgets. It's baked into the process. They knew it would happen. The founders aren't that dumb. They knew what was coming, and they knew people would use the power of the purse to curtail political opposition. So long as they do so within the rules, that's fine. And in this case, it seems to be absolutely within the rules. And not only that, the score settling in this case is within the purview of the legislature directly. They're dissatisfied with the performance of one branch of government in one specific capacity. So they say, nope, cutting you off. Here you go. But you'll have a hard time convincing Democratic members of the House Appropriations Committee of that. Who cares? They're politically motivated to say the opposite. On Tuesday morning, the Arizona House Appropriations Committee stripped Secretary of State Katie Hobbs for her ability to defend election lawsuits. It gave the power exclusively to the Attorney General. Later in the day, the State Senate Appropriations Committee passed the same changes. Now these proposed changes are part of the full budget proposal that would be voted on later this week. We are meddling with the Constitution, State Representative Randy Freese of Tucson said. Oh, okay. Now you're concerned about meddling with the Constitution. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Big problems here. That suddenly they're all constitutional purists, right, when it affects them. But of course, this isn't meddling with the Constitution. This is the decision of the legislature, who has the power of the budgeting, who has the power of the purse, to determine, who also gets to determine the scope of how these things are done, how election lawsuits are handled. They get to determine who has jurisdiction, who has standing. They get to determine who has the authority to do this on behalf of the state because they control it. They're maybe, as the article suggests, a little mad that Katie Hobbs went outside of the state, hired outside counsel to defend against the election lawsuits. And if I'm not mistaken, hired Mark Elias, an absolute snake, a large snake in the grass, Mark Elias, who was involved in many, many, many of the election issues throughout 2020 and was certainly part of the Democrat machine, and the Democrat legal machine was robust, whereas the Republican one was not. It was sort of ill-fated. The Democrats had an entire legal strategy in place long before the election. They had their legal operatives in every state ready to go. The Republicans have been criticized significantly for not doing so. But that is part of the issue here. And the other part is simply how she's handling this audit, I would think, is a big part of it as well. She's out threatening voters. She's threatening this stuff. And I think the Republicans' point in some of this is, you know, if you had done your job appropriately, this wouldn't be happening in the first place. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Drop a comment down below. Let me know. What do you think about the audit? What do you think about Katie Hobbs? Oh, I needed to point out one last thing. The restrictions that the Republicans imposed on Katie Hobbs, they expire as soon as there's the new Secretary of State election in 2023. Or once they take office. Not power. No. They hold an office. They don't hold power. Once they take office in 2023, then it goes back to the new Secretary of State. So the Republicans have just literally stripped Katie Hobbs of her power because they don't like what she has done. And they're probably worried about how those 2022 elections are going to go with her at the helm. So we'll see if it makes it through the entire budgeting process. It's going in, but Arizona will still have to pass the bill and it'll have to be signed by the governor. But like I said, tell me what you think down below. Until next time, peace.